There's no toilettes. They only have parfums. It lasts longer.
It's not an auction house, right? We can take a minute to breathe. Very interesting is that some of the perfumers behind these fragrances are the very same. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I feel like, specifically on platforms like TikTok and Instagram, perfume has become almost like fast fashion as opposed to a luxury, which perfume is a luxury, let's face it. It's, you know, a really nice smelling liquid that you spray on your body. So I just thought it'd be really fun to kind of react to a few videos around how I believe perfume has become almost like a trendy fast fashion led industry. So without further ado, we'll just jump straight into it. And before we jump in, I really want you guys to comment down below how you think the industry is going. If you've been, you know, perfume collectors from say many years ago, or if you've only recently gone into perfumes, what are your thoughts around, you know, what's going on at the minute? So without further ado, we'll just jump straight into it. The reason why I'm comparing the fragrance industry to maybe fast fashion is because I've noticed, and I know that you guys have noticed the same, where things are becoming really overproduced, very trend led, and these brands, not just Dupe brands by the way, but other brands have been coming out with fragrances almost like in an abundant amount of releases within the year. So whereas before it was maybe like 1 or 2 releases within the year, it's now become tens and tens of different releases. And as I mentioned, it's not just Dupe brands, it is other brands out there. And sometimes, you know, for us normal consumers out there, I think it can be really overwhelming, and this is why I really attribute it to becoming almost like fast fashion. So without further ado, we'll just jump into a few videos, we'll react to a few of them, and yeah, I'll kind of get your thoughts around it as well.
There's no toilettes. They only have parfums. It lasts longer. Killin's Angel Share, $255. Kismin Angel, $30. Zerjov Herba Pura, $245. Philos Pura, $29. Louis Vuitton L'Immensité, $410. Jean-Loup Immortal, $30.
I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I'm in an auction house right now. The way he's so quick with the numbers and comparing them so easily, like $29, $30, parfum, not eau de toilette. Yeah, he's definitely doing it to kind of get a reaction, but yeah, I find him quite funny, to be fair.
For Lost Cherry, $385. Lovely Cherry, $30. Bitter Peach, $385. Bright Peach, $30. Tom Ford Tuscan Leather, $290. Toscano Leather, $21. Parfum de Mali Herod, $385.
I love how they're completely unashamed in actually using the exact name of the fragrance as well. Not even like, I mean, it's Toscano leather, but still, I mean, how closer can you get to that? I just find it really funny. Like, you're not going by your own name. You're literally, I mean, this is dupe on dupe, right? Like, this is literally duping the exact fragrance. But anyway, we'll keep going on with the auction.
From the Mali Herod, $385. Hercules, $35. Bayrido Bal d'Afrique, $225. Berlinetta, $35. Tom Ford Tobacco Vanille, $195. That's the one Canelo showed in his GQ interview. $195. Tobacco Touch, $20.
Have we noticed, by the way, that this is all from the same fragrance brand? I don't know about you guys, but if you are a dupe expert, surely you would almost like include other dupes in there as opposed to just one brand. That's what I find really interesting, right? And this is where, you know, maybe some clarity around why you're just including one specific brand would be really interesting to know, because you are transparent about it, fair enough, but at least kind of include other options for people. What if these fragrances aren't exact fakes or dupes of the original ones? And what if somebody's really disappointed? Like, I don't know about you guys, but specifically with fragrance brands, I don't always think that every single fragrance is amazing. Like, there are very, very few fragrance brands out there where I own every single bottle from every single line and I absolutely love every single fragrance, right? And this is where I think it becomes a little bit dangerous, a little bit more like an auction house. Like, buy first, you need to get this because you're going to save yourself so much money. And it's just this overdriven hyping of all of these different fragrances when, yeah, like, really guys, let's take a step back. It's not an auction house, right? We can take a minute to breathe. We can understand these fragrances a little bit more, because what if it's a case where you might not enjoy it as much and it might not be an exact replica of that specific fragrance, right? So anyway, I thought he was really funny because, you know, I think he is doing it to kind of gain a little bit of a controversial type of opinion, because, you know, I think he knows this as well, but not all of those fragrances will be exact dupes of the originals. But he, you know, he might be trying to help people. You know, he might be giving more affordable options, but by giving more affordable options, you'd think that he would maybe give a little bit more of a varied view of maybe other brands that might be copying or replicating, you know, original fragrances. So anyway, that is that one.
Today my heart broke a little bit because I decluttered some absolutely stunning fragrances. But if there's one thing I've learned from collecting fragrances for 3+ years, it's that just because something smells good doesn't mean that I want to smell like it, and it doesn't mean that I'm going to reach for it.
I find that really interesting. I quite like her honesty here, where, you know, obviously you'll have fragrances in your collection, right, that you might really love and you might really like the smell of, but maybe you might not gravitate towards it as much anymore. So I don't think there's any major issue with this, and I think maybe she's been a little bit more reflective, which is always a good thing, because, you know, let's face it, another man's trash is another man's treasure. I know we talked about this in the last video, but this is where maybe I'm a little bit divided. I mean, we'll keep kind of watching this video and seeing how she declutters the fragrances. I just want to first off say that, you know, I really like her honesty when it comes to this, and we'll keep watching.
I found myself holding on to bottles just because of how beautiful they are. These are like pieces of art to me sometimes, and I just love to stare at them. It's also really satisfying aesthetically to have all the pieces of a collection. I had 2 rules for myself during this declutter. I had to get rid of it if I hadn't worn it in over a year, or if I hadn't touched it since I either received it in PR or bought it myself.
So I really like that concept, and I think maybe it's like a really good rule to have, especially if you're a content creator or if you're a massive collector of different fragrances and perfumes. What I find a little bit strange, and just hear me out guys, and I think we spoke about this not in the last video but the video before that, where people's collections are very, very different, right? There are some people who collect based on these specific lines, like signature lines from different fragrance houses, and I think to myself, are you buying the fragrances for the sake of them being from the same line, and, you know, being like that type of collector where you need to have every single fragrance from that specific brand, or are you collecting and curating based on fragrances that you truly love? So that's the part that I found maybe a little bit strange, where I thought, you know, why are you collecting it based on the aesthetics of the bottle? Like, I get it guys, like, and I know you guys will be able to relate, there's nothing more beautiful than a really well crafted packaging bottle where it can really stand out on your vanity, right? Especially if you're a proper collector, these things really matter. But then I think to myself, is packaging everything? I mean, are we really collecting based on the packaging? And this is where I feel like it's kind of going back to that fast fashion, right? Where you're just having everything based on the looks, based on the trends, and you're not actually collecting based on what you truly love. And I think maybe that's where we disagree slightly on this subject, but I really like the fact that, you know, she said reflectively, like, look, you know, if I'm not wearing it, say within the year, I'm going to declutter it, which I think is a fantastic idea. And maybe it will go to somebody's home that's maybe a little bit more well loved, and it becomes maybe like a signature scent or something that they wear fairly regularly. So we'll keep watching.
That is just unacceptable and a waste to me. So if you see a fragrance that I decluttered and you thought I loved that fragrance, it is because I loved it. And at the time, I probably believed that I would wear it constantly too. So stick around for honest reviews and to watch me continue to build my
I do like her approach here, and I think the emphasis behind this video is that even though she's decluttering these fragrances, she has truly loved them, which I think is really nice. But again, it kind of goes back to, you know, us consumers, people watching different content creators out there. I think that's when the disparity comes into play, where are you really promoting these fragrances because you truly love them, or are you promoting them because of a commission-based thing? Now, I disagree with that notion. I think genuinely she does, you know, really love those fragrances, and it might be the case where she has such a big collection that maybe she's not giving them as much love as maybe what she should do, and that's why, you know, she's decluttering them. People who think that maybe influencers or content creators aren't genuinely truthful or aren't honest, I get it. Especially if you're watching decluttering videos, and this is, you know, going back to the whole fast fashion thing, where you're thinking, well, if you were promoting that and now you're decluttering it, do you actually really love it? And this is where you need to make your own judgment based on the individual. I think 99% of content creators and quote-unquote influencers out there, and they do promote fragrances based on ones they truly love, right? I think it's a very rare thing, maybe in the top 1%, where maybe you might get a dishonest person and they are making some money out of it, but I'll be completely real with you guys, very, very few of us make any money that makes any difference, right? And unless if you are in that top 1%, maybe it might make a difference. So anyway, I just thought that was really interesting because, again, with fast fashion, you do see a lot of decluttering, you see a lot of maybe overconsumption, a lot of items that are maybe overproduced and less quality. What I found with her video, however, is the fact that she still has all of these beautiful fragrances. They're high quality, they're really nice fragrances. It's just a case where she's not loving them anymore. She's not wearing them as often, and that's why she's decluttering it. So anyway, we'll go on to another video.
I don't want to say this, but I think perfume talk has been ruined by TikTok Shop.
Here's the industry secret behind why Paul is right, because some of these brands have figured out how to make money off you before you realize that you've been conned. It takes time to develop a balanced fragrance, but these brands are just looking at market trends and then slapping something together using the most affordable ingredients possible to make the fragrance as cheap as possible. Then they're paying to boost these TikTok Shop sellers' posts to make them go viral, and by the time everyone realizes the fragrances are crap, they've made their money and they're out.
Yeah, so this is really interesting because I'm not like an avid TikToker anyway. Like, I hardly watch TikToks. I'm more of a long form type of woman, and I know a lot of you guys who watch me, you're really very much into long form type of content, but for people who are into short form content, TikTok can be a really interesting place because it's advertisement after advertisement made as videos from creators, which is really bizarre. It's not like other platforms like a YouTube where you literally have ads just showing up on the videos, right? These are actual people making these videos to advertise those specific fragrances. Now, what I have noticed, and I know you guys have noticed the same, is that on TikTok Shop, you get all of these fragrances like just randomly made to go viral on TikTok, right? And then you have a lot of creators promoting these fragrances, maybe to make a small commission. It's not a massive amount of money, guys, so please let's not have that debate just now. But they are promoting them very heavily, and then as a result, you're just completely swarmed by all of these adverts on TikTok, right? And I think that's where it becomes, again, a little bit like fast fashion, where there will be one trending fragrance on TikTok or Instagram, for example, like what was that one that was really Bianca Latte, for example, which went absolutely crazy, right? And then what I found really interesting is all of these not necessarily dupe brands, but other brands creating fragrances very similar to it and then promoting it very heavily on TikTok Shop. And again, you're almost driven as a consumer, and guys, let's be completely honest here, we're all adults, we can make our own decisions, so this is entirely up to you whether you do this or not. But you might come across that advert thinking, oh, it's going to smell very similar to a Bianca Latte, or maybe in that same olfactory group, and you might be really disappointed because, as he said rightly, the quality of the materials might not be as good, the actual olfactory group might not be as close as what you would expect from that specific fragrance. So, TikTok Shop has become very much like a fast fashion marketplace, and this is similar to, the guy that we were watching earlier, where it was literally like an auction house. This for $29, this for $30, this for $34, for example, and all of these different call outs where it's very short attention span, it's getting in there to hook you straight away, can really feed into a lot of different people's psyches. So anyway, that is one vision. We'll go on to a very controversial one, which is around dupes. Now, I don't know whether to make a video specifically surrounding dupes because it's a very controversial subject. Personally, I don't see anything wrong with an end consumer buying a dupe fragrance based on, not maybe being able to afford the original fragrance, but I'm just going to see the comments around Francis Kirkjohn, which had a lot of flack and a lot of support from different people, and I just want to see, what his thoughts are around it.
Duping is stealing.
It's violating.
Violating rights. Of course, it's easy to say that a perfume formula can't be patented. So why can't we protect a fragrance recipe while you can protect the design of a handbag? It doesn't make any sense. So if you are copied, it means you are relevant. So it means you exist. So I have to say there is a little bit of pride that fades very quickly. You steal the intellectual property of someone by wearing a copy.
Do you think the word like dupe is making light of basically stealing?
Dupe, those brands are very clever, and they dupe the brand they copy, but they dupe also the consumer. You, as a buyer of a dupe, you are dupe as well because you think you buy the exact same thing.
Just to stop it there, I agree with him on that point. Now, a lot of consumers, they can be duped by the dupe brands where they definitely think, you know, this is going to be very close to the original fragrance. Now, that's not always the case, guys. Like, and I've said it in my last video, there are a lot of dupe brands out there that claim to be, you know, influenced by that particular fragrance, and they are trying to copy that fragrance. But the reality is it doesn't smell very similar to it at all. And this is where I think, you know, the overproduction of these fragrances come into play, because they're trying to overproduce based on these olfactory profiles just to, you know, appeal to a wider audience for people who might not be as knowledgeable with fragrances. And then as a result, buy plenty of these dupes thinking that it's going to be exactly the same as the original fragrance. Now, there are really great dupes out there, I won't lie to you. Like, there was one specific one that was duping Alien from Mugler, and I have to say it was like 95% there, and that to me was quite impressive. Not for the fact that obviously they're copying the original formula, but impressive that they've come that close to the original fragrance, right? And I do kind of believe that obviously it's intellectual property, but what I will say is that some of these brands that are really overproduced and widely available, say on TikTok shop or whatever, that are inspired by the original fragrances, what I find very interesting is that some of the perfumers behind these fragrances are the very same that would create the original fragrances. So I find it a little bit hypocritical that, you know, say those specific perfumers, they might really dislike the idea of fakes or inspired by fragrances, but then produce and formulate a fragrance for a brand that does exactly that. I think that can be a little bit hypocritical, but I completely agree with him that if you are, you know, an avid perfumer, say for a specific house, and, you know, you've been even like the really niche ones, like the indie houses, right, which might not be as popular, I think I would be really offended if somebody just, you know, randomly stole my beautiful formulation and then it becoming not even close to that specific formulation, but then being marketed as that fragrance. I think that can be really upsetting sometimes. And this is like kind of going back to fast fashion, right? Where a lot of the fast fashion brands, those companies that produce at an exponential level, they will be inspired by the designer houses like your Bottega, like YSL, Chanel, all of these different things. Personally, I don't buy those designer, you know, brands for fashion. That's a whole different subject, but I understand, you know, why these brands are influenced by these specific houses, because they're popular, right? And they're out of reach for most of us out there. So they create a more inexpensive version of it. But then as a result, with this overproduction of these less quality goods, it can come across quite cheap and very disposable. And it's like, fragrance in of itself is an art form. I think it's a really beautiful thing. Do I think it should be accessible to everyone? Absolutely. And this is why I always make an effort to make a video surrounding by cheaper fragrances, more affordable fragrances, and more expensive fragrances. I think it's always good to create a really good array of different fragrances from varying different price points for every single person out there. I don't think you should feel like you can't afford a really nice fragrance based on your income. I think you should be able to get whatever you like based on your budget. So I really fundamentally believe in that, and I know a lot of you guys you know, agree with that as well, that sentiment. So anyway, all of this to say, I want your opinion on whether you think fragrance has become like fast fashion, whether the industry has changed a lot within the last few years. I really want to get your guys' opinion on the subject. I might even read some Reddit comments. I love Reddit. I both love it and hate it for various different reasons, but I really love the fact that people are super honest on Reddit. So I might read like a few community posts and kind of see what people are saying there. I'm going to read a post from a year ago in Reddit, and it says, "Those who sell fragrance, do you think it became fast fragrance?" So I'm going to have a read of this here. "Just as fast fashion, etc., where you see new lines appearing on the shelves online every week. I work with perfume, not niche, and I feel new launches become overwhelming. 100%. One successful scent is followed by too many versions too often. There is an original, EDP, then EDP, Parfum, Elixir, Intense, Absolute, Floral, and God knows what. For me, the line loses its magic and turns into a boring crowd scent. It might serve those who seek newness all the time, but come on, one must be fed up at some point, sooner or later. I think it would be more exciting to have totally different scent once or twice per year, something that is well thought out and well performing. Personally, fragrance releases become so fast paced, I lost interest. Now, this one I really relate to. I don't know about you guys, but I don't have anything against flankers. I think sometimes they can be a really good thing, but this is going back to not just dupe brands, but actual brands like designer brands out there creating massive amounts of fragrances based on popular lines. And it's like, right, can we just have a breather here? Can we just have 1 or 2 fragrances a year that are really well thought out of, and you know, we really genuinely enjoy them? Maybe there's something unique, maybe there's something fundamental and beautiful. You know, I completely agree with this person. I don't know about you guys, but it's not necessarily just the dupe brands, it's also the designer brands and even some of the quote-unquote niche brands out there where one particular fragrance from one line becomes super popular and then they create like another flanker, an EDP, a Parfum, an Intense, all of these different floral versions, woodier versions. You know, there's so many of these that are launched, and you think to yourself, can you not just give us maybe 1 or 2 fragrances per year where we can have a little bit of a breather, try them one by one, and then if we do really love them, you know, we can buy them. And we're so lucky to have so many fragrances to choose from, but sometimes it can become really overwhelming. And like what this person was saying, it's like fast fashion where every single week there is a new line, there's a new style that becomes really popular, and it's like, can we just have a breather? Can we just go one by one and just really enjoy what's coming out? I'm really intrigued to see what these comments are saying as well. That's why I don't care much for new releases of anything. My collection has quite a few classics, nostalgic scents, mixed with a few newer perfumes that I like. If you keep following the new releases just so you can have the newest and latest, you're gonna just go get overwhelmed. There's new perfumes coming out every month. Most of them are nothing special. Ooh. You know, it's interesting because there are some really nice fragrances that are released. Like there was one from Memo Paris. It was called Portobello Road. I'll put a picture up here for you guys. My goodness, I was so shocked by this fragrance. It smelled so unique, so different to anything that I've tried in a very long time, and I was genuinely blown away by that fragrance. So that one as a standalone, I was very pleasantly surprised about. There have been other ones that have been released this year. I won't name them because I don't think it's fair, but I really was not a fan whatsoever. In fact, one of them was such a massive disappointment that I genuinely thought, how did the perfumer, as such a famous perfumer as he is, release something so disappointing? I mean, I was literally just blown away by how disappointed I was. Strangest thing about it, and this is where perfume is so subjective, is that particular fragrance that I was super disappointed by, a lot of people commented saying that they absolutely love it. And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, this is the world that we live in. Just because I don't like it, it doesn't mean somebody else won't love it. And you know, this is where perfume is so weird and subjective, and it's really quite hard to be a content creator, because even though I might recommend something to you guys, you might really dislike it, and that's where the reality hits for me. And I think to myself, I should probably do a variance of different fragrances, not just ones that I really adore, but maybe others that others really like. You know, just be able to give you guys a little bit more options as opposed to just you know sticking with the same old. So it's a really peculiar industry to be in, specifically obviously for a hobby like, you know, what I do. So anyway, with that all being said, you guys, please let me know what you think about this whole fast fragrance type of thing that's been going on for the past couple of years. Are you kind of inundated with all of these newest releases, or are you quite happy with the new releases that are coming out? Let me know down in the comments down below. If you did enjoy this video, please like and subscribe. It massively helps with the channel, and I will see you guys later. Bye guys.